The Toronto Maple Leafs blow up the Winnipeg Jets as a score of 7-3. They get their revenge in the two-game series, split it 1-1, and the Maple Leafs at home continue their 6-game winning streak in front of their favorite fans. And they end up doing it through the power play. We're going to talk all about the Toronto Maple Leafs, their future playoff hopes, what we see in this game right now, and is Toronto looking like the real deal? And we'll discuss some of their holes as well, too. We're going to talk all about the Jets today as we go through the Toronto Maple Leafs breakdown, because the Jets, we know they're not making the playoffs, but there's just a lot of problems and negative things that the Jets are doing that, frankly, don't really lead anybody to say, hey, this is a good team right now. So stick with me. Let's get after it, team. And don't forget that Hot Garbage Sports is brought to you by BetUS. If you like recreational gambling, head over to betus.com, use code HGS, link down below, and get started with BetUS to receive a 125% deposit bonus to bet on sports. You can go ahead and bet on the Toronto Maple Leafs or even the Winnipeg Jets to win the Stanley Cup. Daily NHL odds are updated on BetUS, and all proceeds go to support this channel to help create more content for you. So head over there if you're over the age of majority in your state or province. So there's a few key takeaways from today's game. Let's start with the obvious one, Maple Leafs fans. Leafs Nation, your power play is the best in the NHL. I've made videos on it. I've actually taught people about power plays using the Toronto Maple Leafs breakdown. If you want to see that video, I'll put a link to it at the end of this one, but stick with us to the end. The Toronto Maple Leafs have the #1 power play in the NHL, and this is a massive deal, and it was on full display tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. That's 3 power play goals tonight against the Jets, 2 by William Nylander, and the ironic thing is that I always see in my comments, you can take Nylander's, we'll take Pionk for Nylander. Look, we'll take Nylander any day of the week for any defenseman on the Winnipeg Jets if you want to send him over. I'm telling you, this guy's a gamer. I hear all about his back checking and his defensive woe problems, but trust me, until you've had Mark Schiefele on your team, you don't know about offensive players that don't back check. I think he had a really solid game tonight. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs power play did exactly what it needs to do. And the NHL is a really interesting game when the referees actually call the penalties they're supposed to call. The difficulty for the Leafs is when they get into the playoffs, the power play and the scoring can't dry up. Toronto is driven by scoring. In my opinion, they're the #1 team in the NHL when it comes to putting up goals. I know they're #3 5-on-5 when we take a look at the stats, but that power play just tips it way over. Auston Matthews hits his 50th goal tonight, so the big story for the Leafs is going to be that red-hot power play. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. This isn't luck. This is the league's best power play based on the personnel that go out there and their strategies, and Jets fans, we saw it tonight. The second big story for the game is the Winnipeg Jets and their inability to generate offense. This is a very frustrating team. If you're a Jets fan, hey, go figure, Jets fan, it's all over me. But it's a very frustrating team to watch because they're so bad defensively this year, like just awful. No matter whether it's the eye test or advanced analytics, this team is bad defensively, and they're also bad offensively, and usually a team that gets outshot this bad is just a bad team. Well, Winnipeg used to pride itself on that run and gun style of offense with their forwards, and they still do have some talented forwards up front, but in order to try to revamp the back end or the shots against Connor Hellebuyck and Eric Comrie and the rest of the goalies for the Jets, they've totally given up their identity on offense. There's no ability to score, and they put up just a putrid shot count. When you take a look at the shot count that was put up in this game, this isn't just a putrid effort. It's unacceptable. This is just not NHL caliber play. You cannot put up 8 shots and then 5 shots in the second and be prepared to win hockey games, especially down the stretch. This is just a sign of a really bad hockey team. And the Toronto Maple Leafs go ahead and put up 38 shots. And for Leafs fans on this channel, you may be thinking, hey, you know what? That happens from time to time. Not with the Winnipeg Jets. They've actually been outshot 9 of their last 11, and in pretty convincing fashion. Taking a look at the game log for the Winnipeg Jets, you can see right down here on this column, shots for, shots against, and shot differential. That's SD right here. You can see -10, +11, but it's the Arizona Coyotes. What a trash organization and team. Not even the Jets could screw that one up. And look, they went to overtime. I mean, they lose to teams like this all the time. -3, -9, -16, -4, -16, -15. They won that game, by the way. Finally, a +6, -9, -4. You can't expect to win hockey games when you're playing this way. There's no excuse for it. So if you're not going to play the run and gun offense and you're not going to be able to play good defense, what are you doing? You're stuck in limbo. So that's a big story of tonight's game. The Jets continued inability to generate offense and inability to stop offense coming their way. The final big note for the game is the goaltending of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, they have their 75th goaltender who's in there. And if you haven't been following this, it's actually kind of funny. Apparently, NHL GMs are trolling the Toronto Maple Leafs every time they drop a player to waivers or try to sign a player, including one of the goalies that they picked up. People end up signing them and not letting them clear waivers. Apparently, it's been a big thing. Maybe the GMs have a group text or something like that. But Toronto has been poached off waivers more than any other team in the NHL this year, and it's by a large margin. It's pretty funny. But anyways, back to their goaltending. Outside of Jack Campbell, who's injured right now and not in the game, they end up playing some goaltender. And look, he won the game, but at the end of the day, 2 goals went in. It was 2-0 for the Jets right off the bat to start early. Blake Wheeler starts off hot again. And you just can't feel that confident going into the playoffs with a goaltending situation like this when you have to play against the likes of Tampa Bay, Florida, Boston, and Carolina. Well, Pittsburgh as well, too. What a stacked division. Good luck, guys. That's going to be the big story for the Leafs going forward. I think the Leafs back end is really solidified with Mark Giordano. I made a video on how much I love Giordano going over there. I thought Giordano did great. I think they have 2 elite defensemen when you pair Giordano together with Morgan Rielly. No, they're not paired together. They're on separate lines. But when you have those 2 in your top 6, it really does end up helping out. And I think it is going to help out the Maple Leafs goaltending. But at the end of the day, the keys to a Maple Leaf Stanley Cup and Maple Leaf success, if it's going to happen, needs to be the power play, and it needs to be the offense. The offense has to click 5-on-5 in the playoffs. Auston Matthews is looking hot, but we all know the well-documented story of Marner and Matthews going cold in the playoffs, and I really don't think that the narrative in Leafs Nation and that about the Toronto Maple Leafs need to get tougher if they're going to win in the playoffs needs to hold. What needs to happen is that the game needs to be reffed properly where the Leafs can actually get on the power play and use what brought them to the dance, which is that absolutely lethal scoring. But if you end up in the power play, the refs completely put the whistles away again, could be dire. Could be dire because you need that power play to get out there in order to win and move things forward. But the power play and the penalty kill when it comes to the playoffs are so critically important. Say it on the channel all the time, that a scoring team that can run up the type of goals that the Maple Leafs can, especially on the power play, they always have a chance. So are they the perfect team? Far from it. Are they the favorite? No way. Could they do it? For sure they could do it. They are not a long shot, in my opinion, for this. The other thing that's tricky and challenging about the Maple Leafs is their ability to show up to big games, but when they're playing games that aren't considered big or, teams that are out of the playoffs, they tend to slip, and that's not good attitude when you're going forward. You can see here, they beat the Winnipeg Jets. We all know they're super fired up. I mean, there's actually a real rivalry considering they only play 2 games and they're meaningless 2 games, but the cities and the teams seem to really go at each other. But they beat Boston, which was a huge win in order to keep separation from them. They beat Florida, which is a huge win. They lose to Montreal. Weird. Then they go ahead and they beat New Jersey, and then they lose to Nashville. I mean, that's interesting. We'll talk about the Western road trip in a second there for Toronto. They beat Carolina. They beat Dallas, who's a hot team, lose to Buffalo, lose to Arizona. So you can kind of start seeing some interesting trends because as you continue scrolling down, they lose to the Canucks, they lose to the Sabres, they lose to the Jackets, they lose to the Canadiens, they lose to the Blues. What do all those losses have in common besides being losses? Well, and the fact that everybody's second favorite team is whoever's playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs got a victory. Hey, they're undefeated. It's just the way it goes. What they have in common is that none of those teams are good teams statistically. They're just not. Like, okay, Nashville, they're fine. They have Roman Josi. They have Philip Forsberg. They got a goaltender. St. Louis, the biggest overperforming team that's in the playoffs. You go ahead, you dig into the advanced stats. St. Louis doesn't even have a puncher's chance. Frankly, they're an outlier when it comes to the playoff position that they're in. So, I mean, you can't even explain it like you can the New York Rangers with Igor Shesterkin. Just somehow the Blues are there. The Blues aren't going to do anything. So when you take a look at the teams that they lost to, these aren't good teams. But when you take a look at the teams they beat, they rise to the challenge for it. So that to me is a sign of a little bit of immaturity. I'd be a little bit nervous if I was in that locker room as a coach. I don't like that. I want my teams playing consistent at a high level night in and night out, regardless of who my opponent is. The Leafs haven't done that in the last month or two. So that plus the goaltending are really the 2 areas that make me nervous about the Maple Leafs going into the playoffs, the resolve in the back end. But that offensive scoring, amazing. Taking a look at the heat map for tonight, take a look at the Toronto heat map. You can see where all the goals came from here for the Maple Leafs. All the damage is being done in the slot, and that is absolutely Toronto Maple Leafs hockey. That's the way they play, and this is Jets defensive hockey. This followed a perfect script of advanced statistics for both teams. When we go ahead and flip over to Winnipeg, you can see most of the chances were generated from the high slot, some from the point, but no real dangerous chances, and that's to be expected when you have such a low shot count. But taking a look at the Leafs here, what's going to be ironic is the shape of this graph is actually going to match the shape of where the Leafs score goals and where the Jets get scored on. HockeyViz.com is one of the best sites to break this down, and if you take a look at the defensive zone for the Winnipeg Jets, which is on this graph here, Winnipeg 5v5 defense, you can actually see the red indicates where shots are happening against the Winnipeg Jets, and you can see that shape. It looks kind of funny. Oh, dick jokes are always funny, but that actually matches what we're seeing in the shot count for Toronto against Winnipeg here. So Winnipeg is keen to give up shots in prime scoring area, the low slot. That is not where you want to give up shots. And you go ahead and take a look and you see, hey, that's where they're scoring their goals from. So this is typical Winnipeg 101. This is the system. This is the defensive core. This is the players, this is the coach. This is everything. This is not the sign of a good team. But then you move over here to the saving percentage and you can see, although Eric Comrie didn't have a very good game today, Connor Hellebuck bails out the Jets way more than he should because goals that actually go in against the Jets are quite low. Blue is indicating that it's below league average. Red is indicating it's way above league average. And then if we scroll up here to take a look at Winnipeg's offense, when there is any of it, most of the offense actually comes from the point. Most of the shots get generated from the point. The secondary get generated from that high slot. And again, that matches the game logs. I mean, stats don't lie, right? So even though what we were looking at HockeyViz is the macro view of all the Jets games, all 66 played this season, the one game they play here against Toronto almost mimics the shot log that we're looking at here. High slot, couple point shots, but you can see the Winnipeg finishing chart, ice cold around the net. Absolutely ice cold. Couldn't buy a goal around the net if they tried. We've talked on this channel plenty of times about point shots. They're just shots. They're not high productive shots for anybody. They actually just score on the left side, on the outer side here, these bump out plays. That's not what you want to see. Moving over to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the same visual, again, this captures 66 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. What you can see, the Toronto Maple Leafs defense, for as much flack as they get, are doing a great job. They actually limit a lot of shots around and below the goalie, and that's good because when your goalies are to Toronto, you want to be able to do that. The only real point of concern for Toronto is the point. That's where shots come from, the upper left side of the point. And you know what? Those aren't dangerous chances. But when you move over to the goals that actually go in, you can see these should match in terms of color. So when you have ice blue here and hot red here, that tells you got a goaltending problem, and that's nothing new to Toronto. You know you have a goaltending problem. Way too many goals are going in. It's well above league average, and it shouldn't be because your shots are well below league average. That's a pretty big problem. So Toronto is doing an excellent job on the back end of preventing those shots, but they're not doing a great job of actually stopping those shots from going in. So I don't know if there's much more that Sheldon Keefe and the Toronto defense can actually do to support or help out their goalies, to be frank. Taking a look at the Toronto offense, you can see where do all of their shots come from? Exactly where you'd want them to come from, right in that low slot. This is the money area. Look, great teams don't generate tons of offense from the point, and there's the Toronto Maple Leafs not generating a ton of offense from the point. But when you go over to the finishing statistics, where you can see it seems to be a lot of that high slot is where they're going in. So ironically, 5-on-5, Toronto is actually not finishing as well as they should be finishing. They're behind. You can see if this purple line's above the red line, that means they were expected to have 235 goals. They only have 230. What does this tell me? It tells me that there's room to grow and they can get better offensively and should be better. So statistically speaking, if you're generating that much danger around the net, when it comes to playoff time, if the Maple Leafs continue to heat up and get even hotter around that net, oh boy, look out. It could be problems for team in the Atlantic, because if you can score the way you can generate that offense and those shots, no one's going to stop you, goaltending or not. Like, the game's all about scoring. And then you can see here as well too, the Toronto power play, we've well documented it. I mean, the brown here, it's an ugly color, but that means they're well above league average. They're scoring right in and around the net. None of these are coming from bombs from the point. And then if we take a look at their penalty kill, again, ice cold around the net. Very good penalty kill compared to the rest of the NHL. So flipping back over to the Jets, I mean, at the end of the day, Jets fans, I've fully admitted that we have a personnel problem. We have a general managing problem. We have a coaching problem. We got a lot of problems. But I mean, I think the one thing I want to leave you guys with is that shorthanded goal that went in against Winnipeg. I mean, Mikheyev, beautiful goal on that. Dubois lays a big hit. But again, you could really summarize up the Jets' challenges in 2 players, and it's Schiefele and Wheeler. I know there's a lot more challenges than that, but it all starts with your leadership doing the right things. And when I take a look at Mark Scheifele's defensive zone positioning, a point per game gets erased so fast because of his just ineptitude playing defense. So he's on offense, he's playing on the shooter position on the power play, and what does he do when this happens? He stays in the zone when he shouldn't stay in the zone. Instead of getting back and playing behind the puck on the right side of the puck, realizing a turnover occurs, he stays in front almost like a child would at age 13 and 14, the ages you coach at AAA there, hoping that maybe it squirts through and I can get a goal. And that's just such a bad way to play the game. And because he does that, a 2-on-1 ends up breaking out and they end up scoring. So showing you what I mean here, the puck is at the bottom of the screen here. It's being battled right around this area. And you can see Mark Scheifele up here by the Google Pixel sign. He's in position, but he's not in great position. You got to realize at this point, when you only have one defenseman out there, that you need to start backing out, because you have 2 players here for Toronto that are actually on the offensive side of the puck. They have 2 players on the defensive side of the puck, and you can see based on this body position here that the Jets have lost the battle. So the fact here that this Winnipeg Jet here doesn't step in and cut in and start putting pressure on them in order to turn that puck over is just totally incorrect. It gives them way too much room. But Schiefele here, look at where his skates are pointed. They can't be pointed this way anymore. The puck has been turned over. The Maple Leafs have it. He needs to be able to back out. We go forward a few frames there, and you can see the puck has moved up the half wall quite a bit, and it's a 2-on-1. Morrissey ends up pinching in, but if this puck gets around, Mark Scheifele needs to be back here covering for them, and normally a defenseman would know how to do this. The centerman's job is to know how to do this. He doesn't do it. So again, he's not in a back-checking feet position. If we forward it up just a little bit more, we can see, like, it. Oh, did you see those strides? They were so lazy, completely frustrating. Like, oh my God, I have to back check. Please, no. We go forward a few more frames, and then you can see, because he didn't take those few hard strides or anticipate the play the way he should be on a defensive side of the puck, it's now a 2-on-1, and Dubois is going to go ahead and lay some bod here, and that's going to squirt the puck out to Mikheyev. And these aren't one-offs with Schiefele. It's wash, rinse, repeat with the Winnipeg Jets. With Schiefele, with Wheeler, even with Kyle Connor, as much as I love him, the guys don't play defense the way they need to play, and they're not even generating offense the way they should be generating offense, so it's very frustrating. So to take this home, Leafs do exactly what they need to do tonight. Their offense clicks. The Jets, I don't know, 3-game win streak, and then they come out and play this way. I mean, playoffs were only 4% anyway, but you think the players would want to put in a better effort than that. They didn't. They're just on a Sunday skate like they were in downtown Toronto, having a couple too many pops, having some fun out there, enjoying their millions of bucks. Whatever it is, I think you're allowed to be hard on the Jets if you're a Jets fan here, because frankly, going to your job and not doing a good job really isn't acceptable. We don't let the refs off ever. I mean, we always ask them to do a good job. They never do, but we ask. And that goes for both teams. So Leafs fans, when you talk about Michael Bunting getting cross-checked in front of the face, chill out. I've been telling you this on this channel for a trillion years. Refs stink. They're not going to call anything. It's just the way it goes. Sometimes you just eat wood to the face, or carbon fiber, whatever they're made out of at this point. You spit out some chiclets and you move on. A cage would probably fix that, but players apparently don't want to wear it, which is totally fine. So spit the chiclets out. The refs don't make the call in front of the net, and we all move on, right? But you ended up clicking on the power play. Hey, Leafs Nation, Jets fans, take a look at a couple of these other great videos covering both these teams. Thanks for being here. We'll catch you in the next one.